The moment Lena Harper walked through that cafe door with her daughter balanced on her hip, she knew this blind date was already over. She'd seen that look before. The widening eyes, the frozen smile, the mental calculation of how fast someone could escape. 26 years old, and she'd mastered the art of bracing for rejection. But when Evan Brooks stood up from his corner table, he didn't reach for his coat. He didn't check his phone for a fake emergency. Instead, he did something that would shatter every wall she'd built around her wounded heart. He smiled at the child first. Before we begin, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now let's dive in. The rain had started that morning and hadn't stopped. A persistent Seattle drizzle that turned the world gray and made everything feel heavier than it already was. Lena Harper stood outside the Cornerstone Cafe for a full 3 minutes before she finally reached for the door handle. Her daughter, 2-year-old Maya, squirmed in her arms, tiny fingers tangling in Lena's dark hair. "Mama, down!" Maya whined, her voice cutting through the sound of rain pattering against the awning above them. "Not yet, baby. Just a few more minutes, okay?" Lena's voice was soft, practiced in the art of gentle negotiation with a toddler who had inherited her stubbornness along with everything else. Inside the cafe, through the rain-streaked window, Lena could see him. Evan Brooks. 32 according to his profile. A teacher, recently widowed. Her best friend Sarah had set this up 3 weeks ago, and Lena had almost canceled 17 times. She'd learned the hard way that blind dates and single motherhood mixed about as well as oil and water. The last date had ended in less than 5 minutes. The one before that, the guy had literally pretended to get a work emergency text before his coffee even arrived. The one before that had at least waited until he saw Maya to make his excuses, but the pity in his eyes had been worse than outright rejection. "You deserve this," Sarah had told her over wine 2 nights ago. "You deserve someone who sees you, Lena, not just the circumstances." But circumstances had a way of defining everything, didn't they? Lena adjusted Maya on her hip, pushed her wet hair back from her face, and opened the door. The warmth of the cafe hit her immediately. The smell of roasted coffee beans, cinnamon, and fresh pastries. Soft jazz played from speakers mounted in corners. It was the kind of place that promised comfort, the kind of place where meet-cutes happened in romantic comedies. Real life, Lena had learned, was rarely so kind. Evan was sitting at a corner table, exactly where he'd said he'd be. Even from across the room, Lena could see he'd been waiting a while. There were 2 empty coffee cups in front of him, and he had the look of someone who'd been trying to decide whether to order a third or just give up and leave. He was handsome in an understated way, sandy brown hair, a little too long, like he'd forgotten to get it cut, wire-rimmed glasses, a navy blue sweater that looked soft and worn in all the right ways. He had kind eyes, Lena noticed. She'd gotten good at reading eyes. When he looked up and saw her walking toward him, saw Maya nestled against her shoulder, Lena watched his expression carefully. This was the moment. This was always the moment where everything changed. His eyes widened slightly. Surprise, definitely. But not the kind of surprise that led to a quick exit. Something else flickered across his face, something Lena couldn't quite identify. "Evan?" she asked when she reached the table, even though she knew it was him. Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended, uncertain in a way that made her angry at herself. He stood quickly, almost knocking over one of the empty cups. "Lena." "Hi. Yes, I'm Evan. I mean, you knew that." He laughed, nervous, and ran a hand through his hair. "Sorry, that was... I'm not usually this awkward." "It's okay," Lena said. She shifted Maya to her other hip. The little girl had gone quiet, her brown eyes fixed on this stranger with the intensity only toddlers could manage. I should have told you that I'd be bringing—" "Can I help?" Evan interrupted, gesturing to Maya, to the diaper bag sliding off Lena's shoulder, to the umbrella she was trying to close with one hand. "You've got your hands full." It was such a simple offer, but something about the way he said it, not like he was doing her a favor, but like helping was just the natural thing to do, made Lena's throat tight. "I've got it," she started to say, because she always had it, because she'd learned to manage everything alone. But then the diaper bag slipped further, and Maya chose that exact moment to squirm again, and Lena found herself nodding. Actually, yes. Thank you. Evan took the bag gently, set it on the chair beside him, then held out his hands to Maya. May I? Lena tensed. This was too much, too fast. She didn't let strangers hold her daughter. But there was something in Evan's expression, a familiarity with children that went beyond politeness, that made her pause. It's okay, sweet girl, she murmured to Maya. This is Mama's friend. To her complete surprise, Maya went to him. She usually clung like a barnacle to unfamiliar people, crying and burying her face in Lena's neck. But she let Evan take her, settling against his chest like she'd known him her whole life. Well, Lena breathed, sliding into her chair. That's new. Evan sat down carefully, adjusting his hold on Maya with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this before. The little girl grabbed his glasses immediately, a typical toddler move, but instead of pulling away, Evan just smiled. Trade you, he said to Maya, pulling a small stuffed animal from his jacket pocket. It was an elephant, soft and well-loved. This for those? Maya's eyes lit up. She released the glasses and clutched the elephant, making a happy humming sound. Lena stared. You just carry stuffed animals in your pocket? Evan's smile turned slightly sad. Force of habit. My daughter is 4. She leaves her toys everywhere, and I've learned it's easier to have backup. He paused. Her name's Sophie. She's at her grandmother's today. Sarah had mentioned he was a single father, but hearing him say it, seeing the way his whole demeanor softened when he talked about his daughter, made something shift in Lena's chest. Maya is 2, Lena offered. 2.5, technically, but she insists she's almost free. 3 is very important, Evan said solemnly to Maya, who was now having an intense conversation with the elephant. Very big year. The waitress appeared, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a coffee pot. What can I get you folks? And something for the little one. Lena opened her mouth to order, but Evan spoke first. Do you have chocolate milk? And maybe some of those fruit cups with the grapes cut small? The waitress nodded. We do. Perfect. And I'll have another coffee, please. Lena? Tea, Lena managed. Earl Grey, if you have it. When the waitress left, Lena found herself staring at Evan again. How did you know about the grapes? Choking hazard, Evan said simply. You learn these things. Sophie tried to swallow a whole one at 18 months, and I aged about 10 years and 30 seconds. He bounced Maya gently on his knee. This one's careful, though, aren't you, sweetheart? I can tell. Maya nodded seriously, like she understood completely. Lena felt something dangerous happening, the slow, terrifying unfurling of hope. I'm sorry I didn't mention I was bringing her. Sarah said you knew I had a daughter, but I wasn't sure if that meant you expected. I mean, most people expect me to have a babysitter for a first date. Most people are idiots, Evan said bluntly. Then he flushed. Sorry, that came out harsher than I meant. I just mean, you're a package deal, right? Anyone who can't handle meeting both of you isn't worth your time. That's a very evolved perspective. It's a realistic one. I'm a package deal too. Sophie is the most important person in my life. Anyone I date needs to understand that from the start. He adjusted his glasses, which Maya had managed to smudge impressively in the 30 seconds she'd held them. Besides, kids are better judges of character than adults. They see through the BS. Lena laughed, surprised by the sound coming from her own mouth. She usually hates strangers. I'm a teacher. Kids either love me immediately or spend the entire year convinced I'm secretly a villain. There's no middle ground. He smiled at Maya. I'm glad you're in the first category, Miss Maya. The food arrived. Chocolate milk in a plastic cup with a lid, fruit cut into perfect toddler-sized pieces, coffee that smelled rich and dark, and Lena's tea in a pot with a small hourglass timer. Evan set Maya in the chair between them, pushing the fruit closer to her. She dove in immediately, sticky hands grabbing at strawberries and melon. So, Evan said, wrapping his hands around his coffee cup. Sarah mentioned you're a graphic designer? I am, freelance mostly. I work from home, which is, Lena paused, choosing her words carefully, necessary, with Maya. Flexible hours must help. They do. Lena poured her tea, watching the amber liquid stream into the white cup. What grade do you teach? 3rd, 8 and 9-year-olds. They're at that perfect age where they're old enough to have real conversations, but young enough to think, I'm actually cool. He grinned. Give them 2 more years and I'll be the lamest person they know. I'm sure that's not true. Oh, it absolutely is. I've seen it happen. 5th graders are ruthless. He took a sip of his coffee. But 3rd grade is magic. They still believe in possibilities. Lena found herself relaxing despite every instinct telling her to stay guarded. How long have you been teaching? 8 years? I started right out of college, thought I'd do it for a year or 2, and then, he shrugged. Then I realized I'd found my place. Some people spend their whole lives looking for where they belong. I got lucky early. That is lucky, Lena said softly. She'd spent most of her 20s feeling like she was constantly swimming against a current, never quite reaching shore. Maya held up a piece of cantaloupe, offering it to Evan with the generosity only toddlers possessed. You? For me? Thank you, sweetheart. Evan took it solemnly, eating it with exaggerated appreciation. Delicious. Maya beamed, then offered Lena a strawberry. Mama. Thank you, baby. Lena took it, her heart squeezing. These small moments, the sharing, the joy in Maya's eyes, they were everything. She calls you Mama, Evan observed. It wasn't a question, just a statement, but Lena heard the curiosity behind it. She does, Lena confirmed. She didn't elaborate. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Some truths were too complicated for first dates, even first dates that were going impossibly well. Sarah mentioned you moved to Seattle 2 years ago. Almost exactly 2 years. From Portland. Lena stirred honey into her tea. It was time for a fresh start. I get that. Fresh starts are... Evan trailed off, his expression growing distant for a moment. They're harder than people think. They really are, Lena agreed. She recognized that look, the shadow of grief, the weight of starting over when you never wanted to start over in the first place. Sarah said you lost your wife. I'm so sorry. Evan was quiet for a moment, his hand absently rubbing Maya's back as she munched contentedly on her fruit. Thank you. It's been almost 3 years, cancer. She fought for 18 months, but he cleared his throat. Sophie was 1 when she died. She doesn't remember her mother, and I don't know if that's a blessing or a tragedy. Maybe it's both, Lena said gently. Yeah, maybe. Evan looked up, met her eyes. Sarah probably told you this would be my first real date since everything. She mentioned you'd been focused on Sophie. Focused is a generous word. Terrified is more accurate. Terrified that any relationship would confuse her, hurt her, make her feel like I was trying to replace her mom. He laughed without humor. My therapist says I'm projecting, that Sophie is resilient and would adapt fine. But when you've already watched your kid lose one parent, you become pretty paranoid about doing anything that might cause more pain. Lena understood that fear intimately. What changed? What made you decide to try dating again? Evan glanced at Maya, who was now singing softly to her elephant, then back at Lena. Sophie asked me if everyone has a mama and a dada. One of her friends at preschool has 2 mamas, another has a dad and a stepmom, and Sophie wanted to know why it was just the 2 of us. He ran his hand through his hair again, a nervous gesture. And I realized I'd been so focused on protecting her from loss that I wasn't showing her what it looks like to be brave, to take risks, to build something new. That's incredibly brave, Lena whispered, or incredibly stupid. I haven't decided which yet. He smiled, but there was vulnerability in it. What about you? Sarah was mysteriously vague about your dating history. That's because there isn't much to tell. I've been on exactly 7 dates in the past 2 years. The longest one lasted 23 minutes. Lena tried to keep her voice light, but she could hear the bitterness creeping in. Turns out a lot of people are very excited about the idea of dating someone with a kid, and much less excited about the reality. Then they're idiots too, Evan said firmly. All of them. Maybe. Or maybe they're just honest about what they want. Not everyone is equipped to be a step-parent. True, but there's a difference between knowing you're not ready and treating someone like they're damaged goods because their life doesn't fit a neat little box. Lena felt tears prick her eyes unexpectedly. She blinked them back, took a sip of tea. You get it. I do. Evan's voice was soft. The number of women who've told me they'd love to date me but can't handle the kid thing is depressing. Like Sophie is some kind of unfortunate complication rather than the best part of my life. Maya is the best part of mine too, Lena said fiercely. They sat in silence for a moment, a comfortable silence that felt rare and precious. Maya had finished her fruit and was now attempting to climb into Evan's lap, her earlier stranger danger completely forgotten. She likes you, Lena observed. The feeling is mutual. Evan settled Maya against his chest, and she immediately put her thumb in her mouth, resting her head on his shoulder. Oh, are we doing nap time? Okay, I can work with that. You don't have to hold her. She can sit in her chair. Lena. Evan's voice was gentle. It's fine. I've got her. And he did. He had her settled perfectly, one hand supporting her back, the other free to drink his coffee. He looked completely natural, completely at ease. Lena felt her carefully constructed walls cracking, and it terrified her. Tell me about your work, Evan said. What kind of design do you do? Mostly branding for small businesses, logos, marketing materials, website design. I like helping people figure out their visual identity, what they want to say about themselves before they say a single word. Lena warmed to the subject despite herself. It's like translation work, in a way. Taking the feeling of a business and turning it into something visible. That's fascinating. Do you have a favorite project you've worked on? There's a women's shelter downtown. I did all their materials pro bono, brochures, their website, signage. The director wanted everything to feel hopeful without being saccharine, strong without being harsh. It took months to get it right, but when women walk into that space now, they know immediately that they're safe. Lena's voice caught. That one mattered. I can tell. Evan shifted slightly, careful not to wake Maya, who was now fully asleep against him. It's amazing what you do. Creating safety through design. It's amazing what you do, shaping young minds, helping kids believe in themselves. Lena smiled. We're both in the business of building futures, I guess. I never thought of it that way, but you're right. Evan paused. Can I ask you something personal? Lena tensed. Here it came. The question about Maya's father, about whether there was an X in the picture, about all the messy details she never wanted to explain. You can ask. Why did you move to Seattle? Sarah said you needed a fresh start, but he seemed to choose his words carefully. You don't have to answer if it's too much. I'm just trying to understand your story. My sister died, Lena said simply. The words still felt like swallowing glass, even after 2 years. She lived here, and after she was gone, Portland felt haunted. Everywhere I went, I saw memories of her. I needed to be somewhere new, somewhere that wasn't soaked in grief. I'm so sorry, Evan said, and his eyes held genuine compassion. Were you close? Very. She was my best friend, my person. Losing her. Lena looked down at her tea. It broke something in me that I don't think will ever fully heal. No, Evan agreed quietly. It won't. But you learn to carry it differently. The grief becomes part of you instead of all of you. Exactly. Lena met his eyes again, and something passed between them. Recognition, understanding. The kinship of people who'd survived loss and learned to keep breathing anyway. Maya stirred in Evan's arms, making small sleeping sounds. He adjusted his hold automatically, rocking her gently. You're really good with her, Lena said. I've had practice. Sophie went through a phase where she'd only sleep if someone was holding her and walking in circles. I logged about 1,000 miles around my living room. He smiled at the memory. My Apple Watch thought I was training for a marathon. Lena laughed. Maya did the same thing. I used to walk her around my apartment for hours. My downstairs neighbor complained about the footsteps. Did you tell them you had a tiny dictator who would scream if you stopped moving? I did, actually. She brought me earplugs and coffee the next day. Turns out she had 3 kids of her own. The veterans always understand, Evan said. It's the people without kids who think you're just doing it wrong. Oh, I've gotten so much unsolicited advice. Just let her cry it out. You're creating bad habits. Children need schedules. Lena rolled her eyes. Meanwhile, Maya and I are just trying to survive each day without anyone crying in public. Public crying is unavoidable, Evan said seriously. Sophie had a complete meltdown in the cereal aisle last week because they were out of the specific brand she wanted. People were looking at me like I was torturing her. What did you do? Bought 5 boxes of a different brand, let her cry, and then we went home and ate ice cream for dinner. He shrugged. Some battles aren't worth fighting. You're my hero, Lena said, meaning it. They talked for another hour, the conversation flowing easily from parenting disasters to favorite books to whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Evan was firmly pro. Lena was diplomatically neutral. The cafe filled and emptied around them. Rain continued to fall outside, turning the windows into watercolor paintings. Maya woke up eventually, groggy and clingy. Lena expected her to cry for Mama, to reject Evan now that she was more aware. Instead, she blinked up at him, touched his face with her small hand, and said, "Nice." Evan's eyes went suspiciously bright. "You're pretty nice too, kiddo." "I should probably get her home," Lena said reluctantly. "It's almost her real nap time, and if she doesn't sleep soon, this evening is going to be rough." "I understand." Evan stood carefully, passing Maya back to Lena. The little girl went without protest, but she kept the elephant clutched in her fist. "Can she keep that? I've got about 50 more at home." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. Consider it a gift for being such a good date companion." He helped Lena gather her things, the diaper bag, the umbrella, her purse. "Can I walk you to your car?" "You don't have to, Lena." He smiled. "I want to." They walked through the rain together, Evan holding the umbrella over Lena and Maya while getting soaked himself. Her car was parked 3 blocks away, and by the time they reached it, they were both laughing at the absurdity of Seattle weather. Lena got Maya buckled into her car seat, the little girl already drowsy again. When she closed the door and turned back to Evan, she didn't know what to say. "Thank you" felt inadequate. "This was nice" felt insulting. "I don't want this to end" felt terrifying. "I had a really good time," Evan said before she could find words. "Better than good, actually. This was really special." "It was," Lena agreed. "I didn't expect... I thought... You thought I'd run away the second I saw you had Maya with you," Evan finished gently. "Yes," Lena admitted. "Lena, look at me." He waited until she met his eyes. "I don't want to date someone who can compartmentalize their kid and their romantic life. I want someone whose kid is integrated into everything they do, because that's real life. That's my life. And honestly, watching you with Maya, seeing how much you love her, how natural you are with her, that made me like you more, not less." Lena felt tears threatening again. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll let me take you both out again, somewhere kid-friendly this time. Maybe the aquarium? Sophie's been begging me to go, and I thought..." He looked nervous, vulnerable. "I thought maybe the girls could meet each other, if you're comfortable with that." It was too fast, too soon. Every rational part of Lena's brain was screaming warnings, but her heart, her exhausted, hopeful heart, was saying something different. "I'd like that," she heard herself say. "Maya loves fish." Evan's smile could have powered the whole city. "Yeah, okay, good, great. How about next Saturday?" "Next Saturday works." They exchanged numbers, standing in the rain like teenagers. Evan's hair was plastered to his forehead, his glasses spotted with water. He looked ridiculous and wonderful and like everything Lena hadn't let herself hope for. "Drive safe," he said. "You too." Lena got into her car, started the engine, turned on the heat. In the rear-view mirror, she could see Evan still standing there, watching to make sure she got away safely. The simple protectiveness of the gesture made her chest ache. "Mama?" Maya's sleepy voice came from the back seat. "Nice man." "Yeah, baby," Lena whispered, pulling out into traffic. "Nice man." She made it 3 blocks before she had to pull over, her hands shaking too hard to drive. She'd gone on that date expecting nothing. No, worse than nothing. She'd expected judgment, rejection, the same old story. Instead, she'd found someone who saw her daughter not as an inconvenience, but as a person worthy of respect and kindness. She'd found someone who understood. Her phone buzzed, a text from Evan. Made it back to my car, still smiling. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Lena typed back with trembling fingers. Thank you for taking a chance on us. 3 dots appeared immediately, then, us is my favorite part. Lena pressed her phone to her chest, closed her eyes, and let herself feel it. The terrifying, exhilarating possibility that maybe, just maybe, this could be different. That maybe she'd finally found someone who wouldn't run away from the complicated reality of her life. That maybe, for the first time in 2 years, she wasn't alone anymore. The rain continued to fall, washing the city clean, and Lena drove home with hope unfurling in her chest like spring flowers pushing through winter snow. Maya sang softly in the back seat, her new elephant pressed against her cheek, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, the future felt like something to look forward to instead of something to simply endure. She didn't know yet all the ways this decision would change her life. She didn't know about the challenges ahead, the truths she'd have to reveal, the moments when her carefully constructed world would threaten to collapse. She didn't know that Evan would become her safe harbor, or that his daughter would steal her heart just as completely as he would. All she knew, driving through the rain with her daughter and her fragile new hope, was that she'd walked into that cafe expecting an ending and found a beginning instead. And sometimes, on the darkest days when you'd given up on light entirely, that was more than enough. That was everything. The week that followed felt suspended in amber, beautiful and fragile and almost unreal. Lena found herself checking her phone constantly, reading and rereading Evan's messages like a teenager with her first crush. They texted throughout the day, little fragments of life shared across the digital divide. Pictures of coffee cups and Sophie's artwork and Maya's latest attempts to dress herself. Jokes about parent life and recommendations for children's books and the kind of easy conversation that felt like coming home. On Tuesday, Evan sent a photo of Sophie holding a drawing. The little girl had dark curls like her father and serious eyes behind pink-framed glasses. In her hands was a picture of what appeared to be 2 stick figures and a very enthusiastic blue blob. She wanted you to see her masterpiece, Evan's text read. That's supposed to be an octopus. We're very excited about Saturday. Lena showed the picture to Maya, who was coloring at the kitchen table. Look, baby, this is Sophie. We're going to meet her this weekend. Maya studied the photo with intense concentration. Friend? Maybe. Would you like that? A new friend? Yes? Maya returned to her coloring with the matter settled. If only adult relationships were so simple. Wednesday brought rain again, the kind of downpour that turned Seattle streets into rivers. Lena was working on a logo design for a coffee shop when her phone rang. Evan's name lit up the screen, and her heart did something complicated in her chest. Hey, she answered, trying to sound casual. Hey yourself. Evan's voice was warm, slightly breathless. Is this a bad time? No, it's perfect. Maya's having quiet time, and I needed a break from staring at coffee beans. Lena saved her work and leaned back in her chair. What's up? I was thinking about Saturday, and I wanted to run something by you. Sophie's been asking if we can pack a picnic to eat at the aquarium. They have this outdoor area with tables overlooking the water. But I checked the weather, and it's supposed to rain. Shocking, I know. So I thought maybe we could do the aquarium and then come back to my place for lunch. That way the girls could play and we could actually have a conversation without 1,000 other people around. Lena's stomach flipped. Meeting at a public place was safe, controlled. Going to his house felt like a much bigger step. I don't know. Too much? Evan asked immediately. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. We can absolutely stick to the original plan. I just thought, no, it's not that. Lena stood pacing to the window. Rain streaked down the glass. I want to say yes. I have to be careful. With Maya, I mean. I can't bring people into her life who might not stay. Evan was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. I understand that completely. And I'm not asking you to make any promises or decisions. I'm just asking if you want to have lunch at my house. Low stakes, no pressure. If you're not comfortable, we don't do it. What if the girls don't get along? Then we deal with it. Sophie's pretty easygoing, but she's also 4 and has her moments. Maya's too, and probably has even more moments. We're not expecting perfection here, Lena. We're just seeing what happens. Lena pressed her forehead against the cool window. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. We like each other. Our kids might like each other. We're going to spend some time together and see how it goes. Everything else is just noise. I wish I had your confidence. You know what I did yesterday? Evan's voice shifted, became more vulnerable. I cleaned my entire house top to bottom because I was so nervous about you seeing where I live. I reorganized Sophie's toy bins 3 times. I bought new hand towels. I'm not confident, Lena. I'm terrified. I just think some things are worth being terrified for. Lena felt her resolve crumbling. Okay. We'll come to your house for lunch, but I'm bringing dessert. You don't have to. I'm bringing dessert, Lena repeated firmly. It's non-negotiable. She could hear the smile in his voice. Yes, ma'am. Dessert is now mandatory. They talked for another 20 minutes about nothing important. The coffee shop logo, a difficult parent-teacher conference Evan had navigated, the new bookshelf Lena was considering for Maya's room. It was ordinary and comfortable, and exactly what Lena hadn't known she needed. When they finally hung up, Lena found Maya standing in the doorway, her stuffed elephant clutched under one arm. Evan? Maya asked. Yeah, baby, that was Evan. Nice man, Maya said decisively, then wandered back to her room. Lena laughed despite herself. Out of the mouths of babes. Thursday morning brought a text from Sarah. So, how did the date go? You've been suspiciously quiet. Lena waited until Maya was occupied with breakfast before calling her back. It went well, she said when Sarah answered. Well, that's all I get? Lena Marie Harper, I set you up with the best guy I know, and all you can say is, it went well? It went really well, Lena amended. He was perfect. He didn't run when he saw Maya. He held her, fed her, made her laugh, and we're seeing him again on Saturday. Sarah squealed so loudly that Lena had to pull the phone away from her ear. I knew it. I knew you two would hit it off. Tell me everything. Lena found herself recounting the entire date, every detail she'd been holding close. Sarah listened with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been rooting for this outcome all along. I'm so happy for you, Sarah said when Lena finished. You deserve this. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. It's just a second date, Lena cautioned. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Honey, the man invited you to his house. He wants you to meet his daughter. That's not just anything. I know. That's what scares me. Sarah's voice softened. What are you most afraid of? Lena looked at Maya, who was making a mess of her oatmeal and singing to herself. That he'll find out the truth and change his mind. That I'll let myself believe in this and it'll fall apart. That Maya will get attached and lose someone else she loves. Or, Sarah said gently, maybe he'll find out the truth and love you more for it. Maybe this won't fall apart. Maybe Maya will gain someone who loves her. You're an optimist. I'm a realist who happens to know both of you. Evan is one of the good ones, Lena. He's been through hell, and he came out of it still believing in love. Give him a chance. Give yourself a chance. After they hung up, Lena sat with those words. Give yourself a chance. It sounded so easy. Why did it feel so impossible? Friday evening, Lena took Maya to the grocery store to pick up ingredients for the dessert she'd promised. She'd decided on a berry tart, impressive enough to show effort, but not so complicated she'd stress herself out making it. Maya rode in the cart, pointing at everything they passed. What dat? What dat? What dat? Those are apples, baby, and those are oranges, and those are cookies, Maya shrieked, pointing at the bakery section with both hands. Inside voice, please. Lena steered them toward the berries. We're making our own dessert, remember? Cookies, Maya said again, quieter but no less insistent. How about we get cookies for you, and we make the tart for Evan and Sophie? Maya considered this. Okay. They loaded up on strawberries, blueberries, cream, and all the other necessary ingredients. At the checkout, the cashier smiled at Maya. How old are you, sweetie? Maya held up 2 fingers. Almost free. 3, Lena corrected automatically. That's a big girl. the cashier said. Are you excited about your birthday? Maya nodded enthusiastically. Cake? Of course cake. The cashier winked at Lena. They've got their priorities straight at this age. Driving home, Lena thought about Maya's birthday. It would be in March, just a few months away. Last year they'd celebrated with just the two of them. A small cake, a few presents, a quiet day at home. Lena had cried herself to sleep that night, thinking about everything Maya's mother was missing. Thinking about the birthday parties her sister would never throw, the candles she'd never help blow out, the memories that would never be made. This year could be different. This year, Maya could have friends at her party. Sophie, maybe, and Evan, if they made it that far. Lena shook her head, forcing herself to focus on the present. One step at a time, Saturday first. Everything else could wait. That night, after Maya was asleep, Lena made the tart. She lost herself in the ritual of it, the precise measurements, the careful arrangement of berries, the glossy glaze that made everything shine. Cooking had always been meditative for her, a way to quiet the anxious chatter of her mind. Her phone buzzed while she was washing dishes. Another text from Evan. Sophie just asked if Maya likes princesses or dinosaurs better. Apparently this is very important information. Lena smiled, typing back, Maya is firmly Team Dinosaur, specifically the purple one from her favorite book. Perfect. Sophie is also Team Dinosaur. This is going to work out great. You sound confident. I am. They're going to be best friends, and we're going to spend the next 14 years carpooling to playdates and coordinating birthday parties. Lena's breath caught. 14 years. He was thinking in years, not weeks or months. The magnitude of that hit her square in the chest. That's a long time, she texted back carefully. Is it too much? I'm sorry, I have a tendency to get ahead of myself. No, it's not too much, it's just new. New can be good. New can be terrifying. That too. But we're doing it anyway, right? Lena looked at the tart cooling on her counter, thought about the aquarium tomorrow, about Sophie and Maya meeting for the first time. Thought about Evan's house and lunch and all the ways this could go wrong. Yeah, she typed, we're doing it anyway. Saturday morning arrived too quickly. Lena changed her outfit 4 times before settling on jeans and a soft blue sweater. Casual, but not too casual. Comfortable, but not frumpy. She was being ridiculous, and she knew it. Mama Pretty, Maya announced from her position on Lena's bed, where she was supposed to be getting dressed, but was instead playing with her dinosaurs. Thank you, baby. Now let's get you dressed too. What do you want to wear? Maya pointed at her favorite dress, purple with pockets, because pockets were the most important feature of any garment, according to toddler logic. Perfect choice. Lena helped Maya into the dress, then wrestled with her hair. Maya had inherited her mother's curls, wild and beautiful and impossible to tame. Lena managed to get it into 2 pigtails before giving up on perfection. They arrived at the aquarium 15 minutes early. Lena sat in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, trying to remember how to breathe normally. Mama, go see fish? In a minute, baby. Now? Soon. A knock on her window made Lena jump. Evan stood there, Sophie beside him, both of them bundled in raincoats despite the break in the weather. He was smiling, and something about that smile steadied Lena's nerves. She got out of the car, helped Maya out of her car seat. The little girl clutched her hand tightly, suddenly shy in the face of these new people. Hi, Evan said, his eyes warm. You look beautiful. I look like I got dressed in the dark. Beautiful dark dressing, Evan insisted. Then he crouched down to Maya's level. Hey, Maya, do you remember me? Maya nodded, then held up her elephant. You. That's right. I'm glad you're taking good care of him. Evan gestured to Sophie. This is my daughter, Sophie. Sophie, this is Miss Maya. Sophie stepped forward, solemn in a way that reminded Lena of Evan. She had her father's thoughtful eyes behind those pink glasses. Do you like dinosaurs? Maya's face lit up. Yes. Me too. Sophie's reserve cracked into a wide smile. What's your favorite? Purple one. I like the T-Rex because it has little arms, and that's funny. Maya giggled. Just like that, the ice was broken. Lena met Evan's eyes over their daughters' heads. He looked as relieved as she felt. Shall we? He asked, offering his arm with exaggerated formality. Lena took it, feeling foolish and giddy. We shall. The aquarium was crowded with weekend visitors, but the girls didn't seem to notice. They ran from exhibit to exhibit, pointing and exclaiming over everything. Sophie appointed herself Maya's guide, taking the younger girl's hand and leading her through the crowds with surprising gentleness. "They're adorable," Lena murmured, watching them press their faces against the glass to see the sea otters better. "They really are." Evan's hand found hers, fingers lacing together like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Is this okay?" Lena squeezed his hand in answer. "More than okay. Perfect." They wandered through the exhibits, keeping the girls in sight but giving them space to explore. At the touch pool, Sophie showed Maya how to gently pet the sea stars, demonstrating with careful fingers. Maya mimicked her exactly, her face scrunched in concentration. "She's so good with her," Lena said. Sophie's always been nurturing. She mothers her stuffed animals, organizes them, makes sure everyone's comfortable. Evan smiled. "I think she gets that from her mom. Rachel was like that too, always taking care of everyone else." It was the first time he'd said his late wife's name, and Lena felt the weight of it. "You must miss her." "Every day. But it's different now, less sharp, more like an ache that's become part of the landscape." He glanced at Lena. "Does that make sense?" "It does. That's exactly what it feels like. With my sister, I mean." They watched the girls in silence for a moment. Maya had abandoned the sea stars in favor of trying to catch the water dripping from Sophie's hands. "Can I ask you something?" Evan said quietly. Lena tensed. "Okay." "Maya's father, is he in the picture at all?" Here it was, the question she'd been dreading. Lena could lie, could give him the simple answer that would keep her secret safe a little longer. But something about Evan's openness, his vulnerability and sharing about Rachel, made her want to be honest. "There is no father," she said carefully. "Not in the traditional sense." Evan waited, not pushing, just listening. "It's complicated," Lena continued, "and I promise I'll explain everything. Just not here. Not right now." "Okay." Evan squeezed her hand. "Whenever you're ready, no pressure." The relief was overwhelming. He wasn't demanding answers, wasn't making assumptions. He was just accepting. "Thank you," Lena whispered. They moved on to the jellyfish exhibit, where the tanks glowed with ethereal light. The girls were mesmerized, watching the creatures pulse and drift. "They're like space aliens," Sophie declared. "Pretty space aliens," Maya added. Evan pulled out his phone, taking pictures of the girls in front of the tanks. Then he turned to Lena. "Can I get one of you two together?" Lena scooped Maya up, and they posed in front of the glowing tanks. When Evan showed her the picture afterward, Lena barely recognized herself. She looked happy, relaxed, like someone who wasn't carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. "Send that to me?" she asked. "Already done." By the time they'd seen all the exhibits, both girls were starting to fade. Maya was rubbing her eyes, and Sophie was getting clingy with Evan. "Lunch at my place?" Evan asked. "Or is that too much for today?" Lena looked at Maya, who was resting her head on Lena's shoulder but perked up when Sophie took her hand. "Lunch sounds good," Lena decided. Evan's house was a 15-minute drive from the aquarium, a small craftsman in a quiet neighborhood. The yard was slightly overgrown, but there were flowers in the beds and a swing set in the back. It looked lived in and loved. Inside was organized chaos, toys in bins, children's artwork on the fridge, shoes by the door. It looked nothing like Lena's carefully controlled apartment, and everything like a real home. "Sorry about the mess," Evan said, scooping up a pile of Sophie's drawings from the couch. "It's perfect," Lena said, and meant it. Sophie immediately took Maya upstairs to show her the playroom. Lena listened to their footsteps overhead, the sound of laughter and toys being dumped out. "They're going to destroy that room," Evan said cheerfully, "but that's what it's for. Can I get you something to drink? Coffee, tea, water, wine?" "Wine sounds dangerous this early." "Coffee it is." Evan led her to the kitchen, which was small but sunny, with windows overlooking the backyard. "I was thinking grilled cheese and tomato soup for lunch. Very gourmet. Maya's favorite meal. Sophie's too. Apparently, I'm raising a future food critic with very sophisticated tastes. Lena set the tart on the counter, suddenly self-conscious. I made this. It's probably too much. Evan lifted the cover, and his eyes widened. Lena, this is gorgeous. Did you really make this? It's just a tart. It's art. He met her eyes, serious now. Say, thank you for this, for coming here, for trusting me with your daughter. Thank you for making it easy to trust you. They stood there in his kitchen, the sound of children playing upstairs, and Lena felt something shift inside her. This wasn't just attraction or the excitement of new romance. This was deeper, more fundamental. This was the feeling of puzzle pieces sliding into place. Evan reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Can I kiss you? Lena's heart hammered. The girls are upstairs and completely occupied. His thumb traced her cheek. But if you're not ready, that's okay too. I'm ready, Lena breathed. The kiss was soft, tentative, a question more than a statement. Evan's hands came up to frame her face, gentle and careful, like she was something precious. Lena melted into it, her hands gripping his sweater, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Wow, Evan whispered. Yeah, Lena agreed. A crash from upstairs made them both jump. Sophie! Came Maya's delighted shriek, followed by giggles. Evan closed his eyes. I should probably check on that. Probably. But neither of them moved for a long moment, foreheads pressed together, savoring this small pocket of peace, before returning to the chaos of parenting. Upstairs, they found the girls surrounded by every toy Sophie owned, building what appeared to be a fortress out of blocks and stuffed animals. The crash had been a tower falling, nothing serious. Having fun? Evan asked. Daddy, we're making a castle for the dinosaurs, Sophie announced. I can see that. It's very impressive. Maya held up a plastic stegosaurus. Him lives here. Very nice. Who's hungry for lunch? Both girls abandoned their construction project immediately, thundering down the stairs with the enthusiasm only children could muster. Lena and Evan followed more slowly. Lunch was exactly as chaotic and perfect as Lena had expected. Maya and Sophie sat next to each other, giggling and dipping their sandwiches in soup with varying degrees of success. Evan kept the conversation light, telling stories about his students that had the girls laughing. After they ate, Lena brought out the tart. Sophie's eyes went huge. Can we really eat that? It's too pretty. Pretty things are meant to be enjoyed, Lena said, cutting slices. The tart was a hit. Maya got berries all over her face, and Sophie declared it the best dessert she'd ever had. Evan caught Lena's eye across the table and mouthed, "Thank you." After lunch, while the girls played in the living room, Evan and Lena cleaned up together. It felt domestic and comfortable, their movements synchronized in the small space. This was really nice, Evan said, drying a dish, having you both here. It was, Lena agreed. She wanted to say more, wanted to tell him how much this meant to her, but the words stuck in her throat. Mama! Maya's voice called from the living room. Come see! They returned to find the girls had transformed the couch cushions into an elaborate obstacle course. Very impressive, Lena said. Did Sophie help you build this? I helped, Sophie confirmed proudly. Maya's really good at ideas. The afternoon slipped away in a haze of play and laughter. The girls moved from the obstacle course to coloring to a very dramatic puppet show performed with stuffed animals. Lena and Evan sat on the floor watching and occasionally being recruited as audience members. Around 4, Maya started to get fussy, a sure sign that exhaustion was setting in. I should probably get her home, Lena said reluctantly. Someone needs a nap before she turns into a complete gremlin. I don't want to go, Maya whined. I don't want them to go either, Sophie said, looking at her father with pleading eyes. Evan looked at Lena, raising his eyebrows in question. How about this? Lena suggested. We go home now, but we make plans to see each other again soon. Would that be okay? Sophie considered this, then nodded seriously. When? How about next weekend? Evan proposed. We could go to the park if the weather's nice. Have a picnic. Yes, both girls shouted in unison. Getting Maya into her coat and shoes was an ordeal, complicated by the fact that she kept hugging Sophie goodbye and then remembering something else she wanted to show her. Finally, Lena managed to get her to the car. Evan walked them out, carrying the now empty tart dish. Drive safe. We will. Lena hesitated, then stood on her toes to kiss him quickly. Thank you for today, for all of this. Thank you for giving us a chance. Evan opened her car door. Text me when you get home. I will. She got Maya buckled in, the little girl already half asleep. As Lena pulled away from the curb, she looked in the rearview mirror. Evan and Sophie were standing on the porch, waving. Sophie was bouncing on her toes, and Evan had his hand on her shoulder, steady and loving. This could be her life, this warmth, this belonging, this family. The thought was exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. Mama, Maya mumbled from the back seat. Love Sophie. Lena's eyes filled with tears. Yeah, baby, I know. Love Evan too. Do you? Huh? He's nice and funny, and he gave me elephant. Maya yawned hugely. Can they be our family? The question punched all the air from Lena's lungs. Would you like that? Yes, Maya said simply, and then she was asleep, leaving Lena alone with that enormous question. At home, Lena carried Maya inside, got her into pajamas, and tucked her into bed. The little girl didn't wake once, exhausted from the day's adventures. Lena's phone buzzed as she was making herself tea. Evan, Sophie won't stop talking about Maya. She's already planning their next play date, their matching Halloween costumes, and apparently their joint birthday party, even though their birthdays are 5 months apart. Lena laughed, wiping at her eyes. Lena, Maya asked if you and Sophie could be our family. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, what did you tell her? Lena stared at the question for a long moment. What had she told her? What did she want to tell her? Lena, I told her I'd like that too. The response was immediate. Lena, too much? Evan, not enough. Can I call you? Her phone rang before she could answer the text. Lena answered, and Evan's voice filled her ear, warm and urgent. I know we're supposed to take this slow, he said without preamble. I know we've only been on 2 dates. I know all the reasons why this is crazy. But Lena, I need you to know, I'm all in. Whatever this is, whatever it becomes, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Lena closed her eyes, leaning against her kitchen counter. I'm scared. Me too. I'm absolutely terrified. But I haven't felt this alive in 3 years, and I'm not ready to give that up because I'm scared. What if I'm not who you think I am? What if there are things about me, about my life, that change everything? Then we deal with them. Together. Evan's voice was steady, certain. Lena, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be honest. Whatever your story is, I can handle it. Lena thought about the secret she'd been carrying, the truth she'd kept locked away for 2 years. Could he really handle it? Or would it be too much, too complicated, too messy? I need time, she said finally, to tell you everything. But not yet. Soon, but not yet. Okay, I can wait. Take all the time you need. A pause. But I meant what I said. I'm not going anywhere. They talked for another hour, about everything and nothing. About Sophie's request for a pet hamster and Maya's fear of the vacuum cleaner. About Evan's upcoming parent-teacher conferences and Lena's new client project. Normal things, everyday things, the building blocks of a life shared. When they finally hung up, Lena felt settled in a way she hadn't in years. The fear was still there, humming under her skin, but it was balanced now by something stronger. Hope. She checked on Maya one more time before bed. The little girl was sprawled across her mattress, the elephant from Evan clutched in one hand. In sleep, she looked so much like her mother that Lena's breath caught. I'm trying, Lena whispered to the sleeping child, to her sister's memory, to herself. I'm trying to be brave enough for both of us. Outside, rain began to fall again, gentle and persistent. Seattle rain washing everything clean, making room for new growth. Lena stood at her window and watched the drops streak down the glass, each one catching the streetlight and transforming into something beautiful. Tomorrow, she'd wake up and face another day. Next week, another date. Soon she'd have to tell Evan the truth about Maya, about herself, about the grief and love and complicated reality that made up their lives. But tonight, standing in her quiet apartment with her daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall, Lena let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. That she'd found someone who wouldn't run. That Maya's question about family wasn't just wishful thinking. That love, real love, was possible even after loss. The rain fell, and Lena stood vigil, keeping watch over the fragile, precious thing growing between her and Evan. A thing that felt like it might, against all odds, have the strength to become something lasting, something real, something worth protecting with everything she had. The weeks that followed became a rhythm Lena had never expected to find. Park visits on Sunday mornings where Maya and Sophie chased each other through fallen leaves, their laughter echoing off the trees. Wednesday evening dinners that rotated between Evan's house and Lena's apartment, the girls coloring at the table while the adults cooked together. Stolen moments of conversation after the children were asleep, phones pressed to ears in darkened rooms, voices low and intimate. October bled into November, and with it came a deepening that both thrilled and terrified Lena. Evan had keys to her apartment now. She knew which mug was Sophie's favorite at his house. Their daughters had started calling themselves sisters, a declaration that made Lena's heart swell and break simultaneously, because the secret was still there, heavy and unspoken. Every time Evan looked at her with those trusting eyes, every time he talked about their future like it was inevitable and beautiful, Lena felt the weight of her silence pressing down on her chest. "You need to tell him," Sarah said over coffee one November afternoon. Maya and Sophie were at Evan's mother's house, giving Lena a rare few hours to herself. "The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be." "I know." Lena traced the rim of her cup. They were back at the Cornerstone Café, the place where everything had started. "I just don't know how. How do I tell him that Maya isn't really mine? That I've been letting him believe a lie this whole time?" "You haven't been lying. You just haven't told him the whole truth yet. There's a difference." "Is there?" Lena looked up, meeting her friend's eyes. "He thinks I'm Maya's biological mother. He's never asked directly, but he assumes, and I let him assume." "That feels like lying." Sarah reached across the table, squeezing Lena's hand. "You're protecting her. You're protecting yourself. That's not the same as deception." "But what if he sees it that way? What if this is the thing that makes him realize we're too complicated, too messy? Then he's not the man I think he is, and he's definitely not the man you've been describing to me for the past 6 weeks." Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. "Lena, that man looks at you like you hung the moon. He loves Maya like she's already his. Do you really think the biology is going to matter to him?" "I don't know. Maybe. People say they're okay with things until they're faced with the reality." "Give him a chance to prove you wrong." Lena wanted to believe it could be that simple, but nothing in her life had ever been simple, and she'd learned not to trust easy promises. That evening, Evan picked up Maya from his mother's and brought both girls back to Lena's apartment. The moment they walked in, Maya launched herself at Lena with the force of a small tornado. "Mama! We made cookies and Grammy let us eat 3, and we played dress up, and Sophie let me wear the princess crown." "Sounds like you had a big adventure," Lena said, breathing in the scent of her daughter's hair, chocolate and baby shampoo, and pure joy. Sophie was more reserved, hanging back near her father. She'd been like that lately, Lena had noticed. Excited and open one moment, watchful and uncertain the next. The behavior of a child who'd lost one parent and was terrified of losing another. "Hey, Sophie Bug," Lena said softly. "Did you have fun with Grammy?" Sophie nodded, then surprised Lena by stepping forward and hugging her waist. "I missed you." The words hit Lena square in the chest. She knelt down, pulling Sophie into a proper hug. "I missed you too, sweetheart." Over Sophie's head, Lena met Evan's eyes. He was watching them with an expression that made her breath catch. Love and longing, and something that looked almost like grief. Later, after the girls were settled in Maya's room with a movie, Evan and Lena sat on her small balcony despite the cold. The Seattle skyline glittered in the distance, and Evan had brought blankets to wrap around them. "Sophie's getting attached," Evan said quietly. "To you, I mean. To this. To the idea of us being a family. I've noticed. Lena pulled the blanket tighter. Does that worry you? Terrifies me, he admitted. Because if this doesn't work out, it's not just my heart that breaks, it's hers too, again. He turned to look at Lena. I need to know we're on the same page here, about where this is going. Lena's heart hammered. What page are you on? The one where this is real, where we're building something permanent, where our girls grow up as sisters and we figure out how to blend our lives together. He reached for her hand. I'm in love with you, Lena. I know it's fast, and I know it's probably too soon to say it, but I can't pretend anymore. I love you. I love Maya, and I need to know if there's any chance you feel the same way. The words Lena had been holding back for weeks threatened to burst free. She did love him, desperately, completely, in a way that made her understand all the songs and poems and stories about love that she'd always thought were exaggerated. But she couldn't say it. Not yet. Not until he knew the truth. Evan, Her voice cracked. There's something I need to tell you. Something about Maya, about me, about why I moved to Seattle. She felt him tense beside her. Okay. Not here. Not with the girls in the next room, but soon. This weekend, maybe. Can you get someone to watch Sophie? My mom would take her. Evan's voice was careful, controlled. Lena, you're scaring me. Whatever it is, just tell me, please. I can't. Not like this. I need time to say it right. She turned to face him fully. But I need you to know that everything I've told you about how I feel, about what you mean to me, that's all true. This doesn't change that. But it might change how I feel. I don't know. Maybe. Lena felt tears burning her eyes. I hope not, but I won't know until I tell you. Evan was quiet for a long moment, processing. When he spoke, his voice was steady. Okay, Saturday. My mom can take both girls for the day. They love being there together. We'll talk. All day if we need to. You're not angry? I'm worried, confused, a little scared. He squeezed her hand. But not angry. You'll tell me when you're ready, and I'll listen. That's what people who love each other do. You said you love me, Lena whispered. I did. I do. Evan lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. And whatever you need to tell me, that's not going to change. Okay? Lena wanted so badly to believe him. Okay. They sat in silence, wrapped in blankets under the cold November sky. Inside, they could hear the girls giggling at something in the movie. Normal sounds, happy sounds, the sounds of a life Lena desperately wanted to keep. Saturday felt like it arrived both too quickly and not quickly enough. Lena woke up with her stomach in knots, watching Maya sleep for a long moment before getting out of bed. Today was the day. No more secrets, no more pretending. Evan's mother picked up both girls at 9. Carol Brooks was a warm woman in her mid-60s with Evan's kind eyes and a smile that made Lena feel instantly at ease, even in her current state of panic. You two take all the time you need, Carol said, ushering the excited girls into her car. We're going to bake cookies and maybe visit the ducks at the pond. These two will be so tired by the time you pick them up, they'll sleep for a week. Thank you, Carol, Lena managed. Any time, dear. Carol paused, her hand on the car door. He's a good man, my son, but you know that already. I do. And you're good for him, for both of them. Whatever you two need to work out today, you'll figure it out. I have faith in that. After they left, Lena stood in her apartment trying to remember how to breathe normally. Her phone buzzed. Evan. I'm on my way. Do you want me to bring anything? Lena. Just yourself. 20 minutes later, he was at her door. He looked as nervous as she felt, his hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. They stood in her doorway for a moment, just looking at each other. Hi, he said finally. Hi. Lena stepped back. Come in. She'd made coffee, though she doubted either of them would drink it. They sat on her couch, the same couch where they'd watched movies with the girls, where Maya had fallen asleep on Evan's lap more than once. Everything felt different now, charged with the weight of what was coming. I don't know how to start this, Lena admitted. Start at the beginning, Evan said gently. Wherever that is for you. Lena took a breath, then another. Then she began. My sister's name was Emma. She was 3 years older than me, and she was my best friend. Growing up, we did everything together. She was the brave one, the one who took risks and had adventures. I was the careful one, always planning, always worried about consequences. Lena's hands twisted in her lap. When we were in our early 20s, Emma got pregnant. No relationship, just a one-night thing with a guy she barely knew. He disappeared the moment she told him. Our parents were furious. They'd always had these specific expectations for her, and a baby out of wedlock wasn't part of the plan. Evan listened without interrupting, his full attention on her. Emma was terrified. She was barely 23, working as a barista, living in a studio apartment, but she was also excited. She loved that baby from the moment she knew about it. She read every parenting book, decorated her tiny apartment, talked to her stomach constantly. Lena's voice wavered. I was there for all of it. Every doctor's appointment, every midnight craving run, every moment of panic and joy. You were a good sister, Evan said quietly. I tried to be. Emma didn't have anyone else. Our parents had basically written her off. Most of our extended family followed their lead. So it was just the two of us, preparing for this baby that was going to change everything. Lena stood, unable to sit still any longer. She walked to the window, looking out at the gray Seattle morning. The pregnancy was normal, textbook even. Emma was healthy, the baby was healthy. We had no reason to think anything would go wrong. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. But it did. During labor, there were complications. An amniotic fluid embolism. The doctor said it's rare, unpredictable. Emma started hemorrhaging. They did an emergency C-section, got the baby out safely, but Emma... She couldn't continue. The words stuck in her throat, choking her. Evan was there suddenly, his arms around her from behind, his presence solid and steadying. Take your time. She died, Lena forced out. She never even got to hold her baby. They showed her, for just a second before everything went wrong, but she never got to hold her. She was gone within an hour of giving birth. I'm so sorry, Evan breathed against her hair. The baby was healthy, perfect, 7 pounds, 2 ounces, born at 3:47 in the morning on March 15th. Lena turned in Evan's arms, needing to see his face for this part. Her name is Maya. She watched understanding dawn in his eyes, watched him process the information, putting pieces together. Maya is Emma's daughter, he said slowly. Biologically. Yes. Lena stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself. I was listed as the secondary contact on all of Emma's hospital paperwork. When she died, there was no one else. The father was gone. Our parents wanted nothing to do with the baby. They said Emma had made her choices and they wouldn't be responsible for the consequences. Extended family was the same. It was just me. So you took her. I took her. I was 23 years old, living in a one-bedroom apartment, freelancing and barely making rent. I had no idea how to take care of a baby, but she was Emma's. She was all I had left of my sister. I couldn't let her go into the system, couldn't let her be raised by strangers. Lena's voice broke. I went to the hospital to say goodbye to my sister, and I left with a newborn. Evan sank onto the couch, processing. Lena stayed standing, too afraid to move closer. The first few months were hell, she continued. I was grieving Emma while trying to figure out how to keep a tiny human alive. Maya cried constantly. Colic, the doctor said. I barely slept. I lived on coffee and panic. Friends disappeared because I couldn't go out anymore. My parents called once, told me I was making a mistake, that I should put Maya up for adoption. Then they stopped calling altogether. But you didn't give up. I couldn't. Every time I looked at Maya, I saw Emma, her eyes, her smile, the way she grabbed my finger with her tiny hand. How could I give that up? Lena wiped at her tears. But I also couldn't stay in Portland. Everything there reminded me of Emma. The apartment we'd shared, the coffee shop where she worked, the park where we'd walked and talked about her future with the baby. So when Maya was 4 months old, I packed everything we owned into my car and moved to Seattle. Fresh start, clean slate. And you let people think you were her biological mother. I did. Lena met his eyes. Not explicitly. I never lied when asked directly, but I didn't correct assumptions either. It was easier than explaining. Easier than seeing pity in people's eyes or fielding questions about custody and legality. Easier than having to talk about Emma over and over with strangers. What about legally? How does that work? I adopted her officially when she was 6 months old. The process was actually straightforward since there were no other viable guardians. Emma's will, she'd made one after finding out she was pregnant, named me as guardian. So legally, I'm Maya's mother, in every way that matters except biology. Evan was quiet, his hands clasped between his knees, his expression unreadable. I should have told you sooner, Lena said, her voice desperate now. I know that. I wanted to, so many times, but I was afraid. Every time things got serious with someone in the past and I told them the truth, they left. They said it was too complicated, too much baggage, that they couldn't handle raising someone else's kid. And I thought if you knew, you'd leave too. You and Sophie were the best things to happen to us in 2 years, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing that. Still, Evan said nothing. Lena felt panic rising in her chest. Please say something, she whispered. Anything. Yell at me for lying. Tell me you need time to think. Tell me you didn't lie, Evan interrupted, his voice rough. You protected yourself. Protected Maya. You survived an impossible situation the only way you knew how. Lena stared at him. You're not angry? Angry? Evan stood, crossing to her. Lena, I'm devastated. For you, for Emma, for Maya. I'm heartbroken that you went through that alone, that your family abandoned you when you needed them most. But angry at you? No, never. But I let you believe, you let me get to know you and Maya as people before adding the complexity of your history. That's not deception. That's self-preservation. He took her hands. Do you know what I see when I look at you? A woman who sacrificed everything, her youth, her freedom, her support system, to honor her sister's memory and protect a helpless baby. A woman who chose love over convenience every single day for 2 years. A woman who is exactly the kind of mother I want in my daughter's life. Lena's tears were flowing freely now. You mean that? Every word. Lena, Maya is your daughter. You're the only mother she's ever known. The biology doesn't change that. It doesn't change anything. Some people would say it changes everything. Then they're idiots who don't understand what family actually means. Evan pulled her close. Family isn't about blood. It's about choice. It's about showing up every day and choosing to love someone, to care for them, to put their needs above your own. You've been doing that since the day Maya was born. That makes you her mother in every way that matters. Lena buried her face in his chest, sobbing. All the fear and stress and guilt she'd been carrying for weeks poured out of her. I was so scared, she gasped between sobs. I was so scared you'd leave. I'm not leaving. I told you, I'm all in. This doesn't change that. Evan's arms tightened around her. If anything, it makes me love you more. You're the strongest person I've ever met. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm barely holding it together most days. That's what strength looks like sometimes. Not being fearless, but being terrified and doing the hard thing anyway. They stood there for a long time, Lena crying into Evan's sweater while he held her and murmured reassurances. Eventually the tears slowed. Lena pulled back, looking up at him. I need to tell you something else, she said. Okay. I'm in love with you too. I have been for weeks. I wanted to say it that night on the balcony, but I couldn't. Not with this secret between us. But I love you, Evan. I love how patient you are with Maya, how gentle you are with Sophie, how you make me feel safe enough to be vulnerable. I love your terrible jokes and the way you always remember how I take my tea, and the fact that you keep stuffed animals in your pockets just in case. I love you, and I'm sorry I made you wait to hear it. Evan's smile was radiant. It was worth the wait. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, finally her lips. I love you too. All of you. The parts you show the world and the parts you keep hidden. The strength and the fear. All of it. They sank onto the couch together, Lena curled into Evan's side. For the first time in 2 years, she felt the burden she'd been carrying lighten. Can I ask about Emma? Evan said after a while. What was she like? Lena smiled through fresh tears. She was incredible, wild and free and so full of life. She never met a stranger, could start a conversation with anyone. She believed in magic, used to leave coins on the ground for people to find because she said everyone deserved a little luck. She sang constantly, even though she couldn't carry a tune to save her life. She made the best grilled cheese in the world, used this secret ingredient she wouldn't tell anyone, not even me. Maya has her spirit, Evan observed. That fearlessness, that joy. She does. Sometimes I look at Maya and I see Emma so clearly it takes my breath away. The way she laughs, the way she approaches the world with complete confidence. It's like having a piece of Emma back. Does Maya know about Emma? Not yet. She's too young to understand, but I'm going to tell her. I have pictures, videos, Emma's journals. I'm saving everything so Maya can know her birth mother when she's ready. Lena paused. I want her to know that Emma loved her, that she wanted her, that the only reason Emma isn't here is because life is unfair and cruel sometimes. That's beautiful and hard. Everything about this is hard, but it's also beautiful. Maya is the best thing Emma ever did, and raising her is the greatest privilege of my life. Evan kissed the top of her head. You're an amazing mother. I'm a terrified mother who has no idea what she's doing most of the time. Same. I think that's just parenting. They laughed, and the sound was light and free. The weight of the secret was gone, and in its place was something solid and real. What happens now? Lena asked. Now we keep doing what we've been doing, dating, spending time together, letting the girls be sisters, except now we do it without secrets, complete honesty from here on out. Complete honesty, Lena agreed. That sounds terrifying. It is, but I think we can handle it. Evan shifted to look at her. I do have one question, though. Anything. Your parents, are they still out of the picture? Lena's expression hardened. Completely. They made their choice. They chose their pride and their expectations over their daughter and granddaughter. I haven't spoken to them since Emma's funeral. Do you think that'll ever change? I don't know. Part of me hopes they'll come around someday, realize what they're missing. But I'm not holding my breath, and I'm not letting Maya grow up feeling unwanted by them. As far as she's concerned, our family is just us. And now us, Evan added softly. If you want it to be. I do want that, more than anything. They talked for hours, filling in details and answering questions. Evan wanted to know about Emma's pregnancy, about the early days with Maya, about the grief and exhaustion and joy of those first years. Lena wanted to know about Rachel, about how Evan had navigated single parenthood, about his fears and hopes for the future. By the time they picked up the girls from Carol's house, Lena felt lighter than she had in months. The secret was out, and the world hadn't ended. Evan was still here, still looking at her with love and admiration. Maya and Sophie tumbled out of Carol's house, covered in flour and joy. We made cookies, Sophie announced. So many cookies. Grammy said we were excellent bakers, Maya added proudly. Carol appeared behind them, laughing. They were very enthusiastic helpers. There's flour in places I didn't know flour could reach. Thank you for taking them, Evan said, hugging his mother. Anytime. You know I love it. Carol looked between Evan and Lena, a knowing smile on her face. You two look happy. Good talk? Very good talk, Lena confirmed. I'm glad. Carol squeezed Lena's hand. You're family now, you know. You and Maya, both. The simple statement brought tears to Lena's eyes again. Family. It was all she'd wanted, all she'd been searching for. That evening, they all had dinner at Evan's house, a chaotic affair involving the cookies the girls had made and frozen pizza because no one had the energy to cook. The girls were wound up from their day with Grammy, running circles around the living room and telling elaborate stories about the ducks they'd seen at the pond. After dinner, after baths and stories and the elaborate bedtime routine of two overtired toddlers, Lena and Evan finally collapsed on his couch. This is my life now, Evan said, staring at the ceiling. Constant chaos, no quiet moments, and I wouldn't change a single thing. Not a single thing, Lena teased. Well, maybe I'd make them sleep past 6 in the morning. That would be nice. Dream big. Evan turned to look at her, his expression serious. I am dreaming big. I'm dreaming of mornings where we all wake up in the same house, of bedtime routines that are ours together, not split between two places, of the girls sharing a room because they want to, not just for sleepovers, of building something permanent and real. Lena's breath caught. Evan? Too much? Too fast? No. Perfect. Perfectly terrifying, but perfect. We don't have to rush anything. We can take our time, do this right. But I need you to know that's where I'm headed. Toward you, toward us, toward forever. Forever, Lena whispered, testing the word. It didn't feel as frightening as it once had. I think I like the sound of that. They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the lights from the city twinkle through the window. Upstairs, they could hear Maya and Sophie giggling, supposedly asleep but clearly still wide awake. Should we go separate them? Lena asked. Absolutely, in 5 more minutes. Those 5 minutes stretched into 10, then 15. Neither of them wanted to move, content to exist in this pocket of peace. Finally, Evan stood, pulling Lena up with him. Come on, time to be responsible adults. They climbed the stairs together and found both girls in Sophie's bed, tangled together like puppies. Maya had her thumb in her mouth, and Sophie was clutching her favorite stuffed bunny. They were sound asleep despite all the noise they'd been making. I don't have the heart to move them, Lena admitted. Me neither. Maya can just stay over. We'll make pancakes in the morning. You're sure? Evan wrapped his arm around her waist. I'm sure. About this. About you. About all of it. No more doubts, no more fear. Just us, figuring it out together. Lena leaned into him, watching their daughters sleep. Maya, the piece of Emma she'd been given to protect. Sophie, the girl who'd lost her mother too young but was learning to love again. 2 children who'd found each other against all odds, and 2 adults who'd found each other too, building something beautiful from the wreckage of their grief. Thank you, Lena whispered. For what? For staying, for listening, for not running away when I gave you every reason to. Lena. Evan turned her to face him. I could never run from you. You're it for me. You and Maya both. The rest of my life starts now, and I can't wait to spend it loving you. The kiss was soft and sweet and full of promise, a seal on the truth that had been spoken, on the future they were building together. When they finally pulled apart, Evan smiled. So, pancakes tomorrow? I make excellent pancakes. The best pancakes, Lena agreed. It's a date. They crept out of Sophie's room, leaving the door cracked so they could hear if the girls woke. Downstairs, Lena gathered her things, preparing to head home. Stay, Evan said suddenly. What? Stay tonight. We'll make up the guest room for you, or... He paused, looking vulnerable. Or you could stay with me. No pressure. Just, I don't want you to leave. I want to wake up with you here. Want to make those pancakes together. Want to start practicing what forever looks like. Lena knew she should hesitate, should think about the implications, should move slowly. But she was tired of being careful, tired of protecting herself from happiness. Okay, she said. I'll stay. The smile that lit Evan's face was worth every moment of fear she'd felt leading up to this, worth the vulnerability of sharing her truth, worth the risk of believing in love again. They stayed up late talking, curled together on Evan's bed, made plans and shared dreams and promised honesty even when it was hard. When Lena finally fell asleep in Evan's arms, she felt safe, in a way she hadn't since before Emma died. The past was still there, would always be there. Emma's absence was a permanent ache. The challenges of blending their lives would be real and complicated. But for the first time in 2 years, Lena believed that the future could be more than just surviving. It could be joyful. It could be full. It could be everything she and Maya deserved. And it could start right now, in this moment, with this man who'd chosen to love all of her. The broken parts and the healing parts. The truth and the fear. The mother and the sister and the woman trying to build a life worth living. Morning would bring pancakes and chaos and the sweet disorder of children who'd found each other. But tonight, there was just this. Peace, love, and the quiet certainty that she'd finally found her way home. Morning arrived with the sound of small feet thundering down the hallway and Maya's voice calling out, "Mama, Mama," followed immediately by a delighted squeal when she discovered Lena was still there. Lena opened her eyes to find both girls standing at the bedroom door, staring at her and Evan with wide, curious eyes. "You stayed," Sophie announced, as if this was the best news she'd received in her entire 4 years of life. "I did," Lena confirmed, sitting up and trying to smooth down her sleep-tangled hair. "Is that okay with you?" Sophie nodded vigorously, then climbed onto the bed between them. Maya followed suit, and suddenly the bed was full of wiggly children and morning breath and pure, uncomplicated joy. "Daddy, you said pancakes," Sophie reminded him, poking his shoulder. "You promised." "I did promise," Evan agreed, his voice still rough with sleep. "Give me 5 minutes to wake up, and we'll make the best pancakes you've ever had." "The best pancakes," Maya echoed, bouncing on her knees. Those 5 minutes turned into an hour of lazy morning chaos. The girls insisted on helping make pancakes, which meant flour ended up on every surface and the batter had some questionable additions. But the laughter was real, and when they finally sat down to eat, even the slightly lumpy pancakes tasted perfect. "This is nice," Sophie said through a mouthful of syrup-soaked pancake. "I wish you could stay every day." Lena met Evan's eyes across the table, saw her own thoughts reflected there. This could be every day. This messy, beautiful, chaotic morning routine could be their normal. "Me too, sweetheart," she said softly. The next few weeks settled into a new rhythm. Lena and Evan were inseparable, and the girls followed suit. Sleepovers became frequent, rotating between houses until it became hard to remember which toys belonged where. Evan's toothbrush appeared in Lena's bathroom. Her coffee creamer took up residence in his refrigerator, small migrations that spoke of something larger taking shape. But as Thanksgiving approached, reality intruded in the form of a phone call Lena had been dreading. She was at Evan's house helping Sophie with an art project while Evan picked up Maya from her playgroup when her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but the area code made her stomach drop. Portland. "Hello?" "Lena, it's Aunt Patricia." Lena's hand tightened on the phone. Patricia was her mother's sister, the only member of her extended family who'd sent a card when Emma died. They hadn't spoken since. "Patricia, hi. This is unexpected." "I know. I'm sorry to call out of the blue like this." Patricia's voice was strained, "But I thought you should know. Your mother is in the hospital. She had a heart attack 3 days ago." The world tilted. Lena sat down heavily on the couch, aware of Sophie watching her with concerned eyes. "Is she okay?" "She's stable now, but it was serious. The doctors are saying she needs to make major lifestyle changes. Your father is, well, you know how he is, not handling it well." Patricia paused. "Lena, they've been asking about you, about Maya. After 2 years of silence, now they want to know about us?" Bitterness crept into Lena's voice despite her best efforts. "I know, I told them they had no right after how they treated you. But your mother, she's been crying, saying she made a mistake, that she wants to see her granddaughter before it's too late." "It's already too late," Lena said flatly. "They made their choice." "I understand. I do. I promised I'd call. What you do with this information is up to you." Patricia sighed. "For what it's worth, I think you've done an incredible job with Maya. Emma would be so proud of you." Tears burned Lena's eyes. "Thank you." After she hung up, Lena sat staring at the phone, trying to process. Sophie had abandoned her art project and was now standing in front of Lena, her small face creased with worry. "Are you sad?" Sophie asked. "A little bit, honey." "Do you need a hug?" Lena pulled Sophie into her arms, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "I would love a hug." "Thank you." They were still sitting like that when Evan returned with Maya. He took one look at Lena's face and immediately understood something was wrong. "Girls, why don't you go play in the playroom for a bit?" he suggested. "I need to talk to Lena." "But Daddy—" "Sophie, please." Something in his tone made both girls obey without further protest. Once they were upstairs, Evan sat beside Lena, taking her hand. What happened? Lena told him about the call, about her mother's heart attack, about the sudden desire to meet Maya after 2 years of pretending she didn't exist. "What are you going to do?" Evan asked when she finished. "I don't know. Part of me wants to tell them to go to hell. They abandoned us when we needed them most. Why should I let them back in now? That's fair. But another part of me thinks about Maya. She deserves to know her family, even if they're imperfect. And what if something happens to my mother? What if Maya grows up and resents me for keeping her from them? Also fair. Evan squeezed her hand. There's no easy answer here. I know. Lena leaned against him, exhausted. Why does everything have to be so complicated? Because life is messy and people are flawed and love is hard. Evan kissed the top of her head. But you don't have to decide right now. Take some time. Think about what you want, what's best for Maya. I'll support you either way. Even if I decide to let them back in, even if it brings all this family drama into our lives. Even then. Lena, I signed up for all of you. That includes your complicated family situation. He pulled back to look at her. Besides, you think my family is perfect? My dad left when I was 12. I've got a brother I haven't spoken to in 5 years because of a fight over Rachel's funeral arrangements. Everyone's got baggage. When did you get so wise? Therapy. Lots and lots of therapy. He smiled. Which, by the way, I highly recommend. Helped me process Rachel's death, figure out how to be a single parent, work through my fear of dating again, changed my life. Maybe I should try it. Maybe you should. Can't hurt, right? That night, after the girls were asleep, Lena lay awake thinking about her mother. She remembered being young before Emma's pregnancy, when their family had been whole and happy. Summer barbecues and Christmas mornings and her mother's chocolate chip cookies. Those memories felt like they belonged to a different life, a different family. But they were real. And underneath all the hurt and anger, there was still a daughter who missed her mother. She picked up her phone, typed out a text to Patricia before she could overthink it. Can you send me the hospital information? I'm not making any promises, but I'd like to know how to reach her if I decide to. The response came quickly. Of course. And Lena, whatever you decide, you're a good daughter, a good person. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. December arrived with the first real snow of the season. Maya and Sophie were beside themselves with excitement, begging to go outside before breakfast. Lena and Evan bundled them into so many layers they could barely move, then watched from the porch as the girls made snow angels and threw snowballs with terrible aim. I've been thinking, Evan said, his breath fogging in the cold air, about the holidays. What we want to do. Okay. My mom always does a big Christmas Eve thing. Dinner, presents, the whole 9 yards. And I know you usually keep things small with Maya, but I was thinking maybe this year we could combine our traditions. Do Christmas Eve with my family, then Christmas morning, just the 4 of us. The 4 of us, Lena repeated, testing the phrase. It felt right, natural. Unless you have other plans, or if it's too much too fast, it's not too much. Lena took his hand. I'd love that. Maya should know what it's like to have a big family Christmas. There's something else. Evan turned to face her fully. I want to tell my mom about Emma, about how you came to have Maya. She's going to adore you even more when she knows the whole story, and I don't want there to be secrets. But I wanted to make sure you're okay with it first. Lena considered. Carol had been nothing but welcoming, treating both Lena and Maya like family from the start. And Evan was right. Secrets had no place in the life they were building. Okay, but I want to be there when you tell her. I want to tell the story myself. They visited Carol the following Sunday, leaving the girls to build a blanket fort in her living room while the adults talked in the kitchen. Carol listened without interruption as Lena explained about Emma, about the adoption, about the decision to start over in Seattle. When Lena finished, Carol's eyes were wet with tears. Oh, honey, what you went through, what you've survived. She stood and pulled Lena into a fierce hug. You're an extraordinary woman, and Maya is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her, Lena managed through her own tears. And now you have us too, all of us. Carol pulled back, holding Lena at arm's length. I mean it. You're part of this family now, you and Maya both. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, we're here. The acceptance, so freely given, made something in Lena's chest crack open. This was what family was supposed to be. Not judgment or conditions, but unconditional love and support. That evening, Lena made a decision. She called the hospital in Portland and asked to be connected to her mother's room. The phone rang 3 times before a weak voice answered. Hello? Mom? It's Lena. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Lena, Oh, sweetheart, I'm so glad you called. Aunt Patricia told me about your heart attack. How are you feeling? Better now, especially hearing your voice. Her mother's voice cracked. I've missed you so much. We both have. Your father and I, we made a terrible mistake. What we said after Emma died, how we treated you, there's no excuse for it. Lena closed her eyes, leaning against her kitchen counter. You abandoned us. When I needed you most, you turned your back on me and on your granddaughter. I know, I was angry and scared, and I handled it all wrong, but Lena, please, give us a chance to make it right. Let us meet Maya. Let us try to be a family again. I don't know if that's possible. You hurt me. You made me feel like I wasn't enough, like choosing to raise Emma's baby was wrong. It wasn't wrong. It was the most right thing anyone could have done. Her mother was crying now. You honored your sister. You gave that baby a home and a mother who loves her. I was too blind to see it then, but I see it now. Please, Lena, I'm begging you, just one chance. Lena thought about Maya, about the grandparents she'd never known, thought about family and forgiveness and whether some bridges were meant to stay burned. I need time, she said finally. I need to think about this. And if I do decide to let you back in, it's going to be on my terms. Slowly, carefully, because I won't let Maya be hurt by people who might change their minds again. Of course, whatever you need, whatever you think is best. I'll call you in a few days, after I've had time to process. Thank you, Lena. Thank you for even considering it. After they hung up, Lena sat in the quiet of her apartment, trying to sort through the tangle of emotions. She was still angry, still hurt, but underneath it all was a tiny seed of hope that maybe, just maybe, something good could come from this. Her phone buzzed. Evan. How did it go? Lena. Complicated. Can you come over? Evan. Be there in 20 minutes. He arrived with takeout and wine, and they talked late into the night about family and forgiveness and how to protect the people you love while still giving them room to grow. Evan didn't tell her what to do, didn't push her in any direction. He just listened and held her and reminded her that whatever she decided, she wasn't alone. I think I want to try, Lena said finally, somewhere around midnight. Not for them, for Maya. She deserves the chance to know her grandparents, even if they're imperfect, even if it's scary. Then we'll make it work, Evan said simply. We'll set boundaries, take it slow, protect Maya first, but we'll try. We, Lena repeated. I like that you keep saying we. Get used to it. There's no more you and me separately. It's us now, a team. The week before Christmas, Lena's parents drove up to Seattle. She'd agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a family-friendly restaurant with a play area where the girls could escape if things got tense. Evan insisted on coming, bringing Sophie as a buffer and a support. Lena saw her parents the moment they walked in. They'd aged in the 2 years since she'd seen them. Her mother looked frail, still recovering from the heart attack. Her father's hair had gone completely gray. Mama, who are those people? Maya asked, looking up from her coloring. Lena took a breath. Those are my parents, baby. Your grandparents. They've come to meet you. Maya studied them with the solemn intensity she reserved for important moments. Okay. The reunion was awkward at first. Lena's mother cried the moment she saw Maya, and her father stood stiffly, clearly uncomfortable. But then Maya did what she did best. She approached them with pure, uncomplicated openness. Hi, she said to Lena's mother. I'm Maya. I'm almost free. 3, Lena corrected automatically. Hello, Maya, Lena's mother said, kneeling down with some difficulty. I'm very happy to meet you. You look so much like your mama. Like Mama Lena or Mama Emma? Maya asked innocently. The question hung in the air. Lena tensed, waiting for her mother's reaction. You know about Emma? Her mother asked, looking up at Lena with surprise. Of course she knows, Lena said quietly. Emma is part of her story. I won't hide that from her. Lena's mother nodded, turning back to Maya. You look like both of them. You have Lena's smile and Emma's eyes. Mama Emma is in heaven, Maya announced, but Mama Lena is here and she loves me very much. I can see that. Lena's mother's voice broke. You're a very lucky girl. The lunch was tense but civil. Lena's parents asked careful questions about Maya's life, her favorite things, her friends. Sophie helped ease the tension, chattering away about preschool and the snow and the Christmas pageant she was in. Evan was quiet but present, his hand finding Lena's under the table whenever things got difficult. Toward the end of the meal, Lena's father finally spoke directly to her. "You've done well. With Maya, with your life. We were wrong to doubt you." It wasn't a full apology, but it was something. Lena nodded, not quite ready to forgive, but willing to acknowledge the effort. "I want Maya to know you," she said carefully, "but this has to be on my terms. You don't get to waltz back in and pretend the last 2 years didn't happen. You hurt me. You abandoned us. That doesn't just go away." "We understand," her mother said quickly. "We'll do whatever you need. We just want to be part of her life. Part of your life. Then we'll take it slow. Video calls at first, maybe, then visits. We'll see how it goes." After they left, Lena felt wrung out and emotionally exhausted. Evan drove them all back to his house, where he put on a movie for the girls and made Lena tea without asking. "You did good," he said, settling beside her on the couch. "Did I? I feel like I just opened Pandora's box." "Maybe, but maybe that box needed to be opened. Maya deserves to know all her family, and your parents deserve a chance to make amends. Doesn't mean you have to trust them completely or forgive them right away. It just means you're giving them a chance." "When did you become so wise about family dynamics?" "Therapy," Evan repeated, grinning. "Seriously, you should try it." Christmas Eve at Carol's house was everything Lena had hoped for and more. The house was full of Evan's extended family, cousins and aunts and uncles, and more noise and laughter than Lena had experienced in years. Maya and Sophie were passed from relative to relative, spoiled with attention and cookies and early presents. Lena helped Carol in the kitchen, learning the family recipes and listening to stories about Evan as a child. It was warm and chaotic, and felt like home in a way Lena's own childhood home never had. "He's happier than I've seen him in years," Carol said quietly, watching Evan play with the girls. "You've brought light back into his life, into both their lives." "He's done the same for us," Lena admitted. "Good. You deserve each other. You deserve this happiness." Carol squeezed her hand. "Welcome to the family, dear. Officially." That night, lying in Evan's bed after the girls had finally crashed from their sugar high, Lena felt a contentment she'd never thought possible. "Thank you," she whispered into the darkness. "For what?" "For this, for your family, for accepting us, for making us feel like we belong." Evan pulled her closer. "You do belong. You and Maya both. This is your family now, too." "I want to ask you something," Lena said, nerves suddenly jangling. "Okay. Move in with me, or I'll move in with you. I don't care where, but I want us to stop dividing our lives between two places. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want the girls to actually share a room because they live in the same house, not just for sleepovers. I want this to be real and permanent and official." Evan was quiet for a moment, and Lena's heart sank. Too much, too fast. She'd pushed too hard. Then he rolled over, turning on the bedside lamp so he could see her face. "I was going to ask you the same thing. I've been carrying around a key to this house for a week, trying to find the right moment." "Really?" "Really. I want you here. Want Maya here. Want our lives completely tangled together so we can't tell where one ends and the other begins." He reached into the nightstand drawer and pulled out a key. "Move in with us. Please." Lena took the key, tears streaming down her face. "Yes. Absolutely yes." They kissed, and it tasted like promises and forever, like the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. "We should probably discuss logistics," Evan said eventually, laughing, "like whose furniture we keep and where everyone sleeps and how we merge two households." "Tomorrow," Lena decided. "Tonight, let's just be happy about it." "I can do that." They turned off the light and lay together in the darkness, planning a future that felt suddenly, gloriously real. A house filled with laughter and chaos and love. Two girls who would grow up as sisters. Two adults who'd found each other through loss and were building something beautiful from the wreckage. "I love you," Lena whispered. "I love you too, so much." Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the city in white. Inside, Lena held on to Evan and thought about how far she'd come. From that terrifying day in the hospital when Emma died and she became a mother overnight, to this moment, lying in the arms of a man who loved her completely, who accepted her truth without flinching, who chose her and Maya every single day. The road had been hard. There would be more challenges ahead, merging households, navigating relationships with her parents, raising two daughters in a blended family. But for the first time since losing Emma, Lena believed they could handle whatever came. Because she wasn't alone anymore. She had Evan and Sophie and Carol and a whole extended family who'd claimed them as their own. She had her parents, tentatively rebuilding bridges. She had Sarah, her constant cheerleader. Most importantly, she had Maya, the child who'd saved her as much as she'd saved Maya. And she had herself, stronger than she'd ever known, braver than she'd believed possible, worthy of the love she'd found. The future was uncertain. It always would be. But lying there in Evan's arms, listening to the soft sound of his breathing and the distant giggles of their daughters who were supposed to be asleep, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Peace. And the quiet, powerful certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Moving day came on a gray January morning, the kind where Seattle seemed determined to wash away the old year completely. Lena stood in her apartment, soon to be her former apartment, surrounded by boxes, and felt the weight of what she was about to do settle over her shoulders. "Second thoughts?" Sarah asked, taping up another box of kitchen supplies. "Terrified thoughts," Lena corrected. "But not second ones. This is right. I know it is." "Then why do you look like you're about to jump off a cliff?" "Because I am jumping. I'm jumping and trusting that Evan will catch me, that this family we're building will hold, that I won't mess it up somehow." Sarah set down the tape and crossed to Lena, taking her hands. "Listen to me. You've already survived the worst thing that could happen. You lost Emma, and you kept going. You raised a baby alone in a new city with no support. You've been through fire, Lena. Moving in with a man who adores you? That's not jumping off a cliff. That's finally learning to fly." Lena hugged her friend tightly. "What would I do without you?" "Crash and burn, obviously." Sarah pulled back, grinning. "Now come on. Evan and the girls will be here soon with the truck, and we've got to get you packed." They arrived an hour later, both girls bouncing with excitement. Maya had been talking about our new house for weeks, planning where all her toys would go and insisting that she and Sophie needed bunk beds immediately. "Mama, is it time? Can we go now?" Maya tugged on Lena's hand. "Almost, baby. We have to load the truck first." "I'll help," Sophie declared. She picked up a small box of Maya's books and staggered toward the door with it. Evan caught Lena's eye and smiled. "Our daughter is very enthusiastic about manual labor. Let's see how long that lasts." Our daughter. The casual way he said it made Lena's heart squeeze. Sophie had started calling Lena by her name a few weeks ago, testing the waters. Last week she'd slipped and called her Mama Lena, then looked terrified like she'd done something wrong. Lena had pulled her close and told her it was perfect, that she could call her whatever felt right. The move took all day. Friends of Evan's showed up to help. Other teachers from his school, neighbors, people who welcomed Lena into their circle without hesitation. By evening, Lena's apartment was empty and Evan's house was full of boxes and chaos. The girls were too excited to sleep, running through the house, claiming spaces and making plans. They'd decided that Sophie's room would become their shared room, and what had been the guest room would become a play area. "We need to paint it," Sophie announced seriously. "Purple, Maya's favorite color." "Purple it is," Evan agreed. "But not tonight. Tonight, we order pizza and try to find the sheets so everyone has a bed to sleep in." They found the sheets eventually, made up beds in rooms that didn't quite feel like home yet. After the girls finally crashed around 9, exhausted from the excitement, Lena and Evan collapsed on the couch. "We did it," Evan said, pulling her against his side. "We did." Lena looked around at the boxes still stacked everywhere, at the pictures propped against walls waiting to be hung, at the beautiful mess of two lives merging into one. "It's going to take weeks to unpack all this." "Months, probably, but we've got time." He kissed the top of her head. "All the time in the world." The next few weeks were an adjustment. Learning each other's morning routines, negotiating closet space, figuring out whose coffee maker to keep and whose to donate. The girls had their moments too, Fights over toys, tears about sharing a room, the normal friction of two children learning to be siblings full-time. But there were beautiful moments too. Sunday morning pancakes that had become a sacred tradition. The four of them piled on the couch, watching movies, tangled together like puppies. Bedtime stories where both girls insisted on sitting in Lena's lap while Evan read. The slow, sweet process of becoming a family. Lena had started therapy in February, finally taking Evan's advice. Her therapist, Dr. Chen, was a kind woman in her 50s who specialized in grief and trauma. Twice a week, Lena sat in her office and unpacked everything she'd been carrying, losing Emma, becoming an instant parent, the fear that she wasn't enough, the guilt over finding happiness again. "You're allowed to be happy," Dr. Chen told her in one session. "Emma would want that for you. She would want Maya to grow up in a home full of love and laughter." I know that logically, but emotionally it feels like betrayal sometimes, like I'm moving on and leaving her behind. You're not leaving her behind. You carry her with you every day. You see her in Maya's smile. You honor her memory by being the mother she couldn't be. That's not betrayal. That's love. Those sessions helped more than Lena had expected. She learned to give herself grace, to accept that healing wasn't linear, to understand that she could grieve Emma and be happy with Evan at the same time. In March, they celebrated Maya's third birthday with a party that filled the house with children and noise and joy. Lena's parents came, still tentative but trying. They brought gifts and admired the house and told Maya happy birthday with tears in their eyes. "She's wonderful," Lena's mother said quietly, watching Maya open presents. "You've done such a beautiful job with her." "Thank you." The words still felt strange, accepting praise from the woman who'd abandoned them. But Lena was trying, letting the relationship rebuild slowly. Her father pulled Lena aside later while the kids were eating cake. "I owe you an apology, a real one, not the half-hearted thing I gave you at the restaurant." Lena waited, barely breathing. "When Emma died, I didn't know how to handle it. She was my daughter, and I failed her. I was angry at her for getting pregnant, angry at myself for being angry at the world for taking her. And when you took Maya, when you decided to raise her, it felt like a judgment, like you were saying I should have done more, been better." He wiped his eyes. "But you weren't judging me. You were just loving that little girl the way she deserved, and I was too caught up in my own pain to see it." "Dad, let me finish, please." He took a shaky breath. "You are one of the bravest people I know. You gave up everything to honor your sister and protect her child. You built a life from nothing, and now you've found love again, built this beautiful family. I'm so proud of you, Lena, and I'm so sorry it took me this long to say it." Lena fell into her father's arms and cried. They stood there in the kitchen while the party continued around them, two people trying to bridge 2 years of hurt and silence. "I'm sorry too," Lena whispered, "for shutting you out, for not trying harder to make you understand. You had nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. This is all on us." When they pulled apart, Lena's mother was there, joining the embrace. The three of them stood together, and Lena felt something she'd thought was permanently broken start to heal. That evening, after the party was cleaned up and the girls were in bed, Lena found Evan on the back porch. Spring was coming early to Seattle, and the air smelled of rain and new growth. "Big day," he said as she settled beside him. "Huge day." Lena leaned her head on his shoulder. "My dad apologized, really apologized. How do you feel about that?" "Good. Scared? Hopeful. All of it at once." She paused. "Thank you for being patient with me. With all of this, I know having my parents in our lives adds complications. Families are complicated. That's what makes them families." Evan took her hand. "Besides, Maya deserves to know her grandparents. And you deserve to have your parents back if that's what you want." "I think I do. It won't ever be what it was before Emma died. But maybe it can be something new. Something better." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky fade from gray to dark. Inside, they could hear the girls giggling, supposedly asleep but clearly still wired from the party. "I want to ask you something," Evan said suddenly. "Okay." He stood, pulling Lena to her feet. Then, to her complete shock, he knelt down on one knee. "Evan, let me get this out before I lose my nerve." He pulled a small box from his pocket, hands shaking slightly. I had this whole plan. Fancy dinner, perfect timing, a speech I'd been rehearsing for weeks. But then today happened, and I watched you with your parents and with our daughters and with everyone we love, and I realized I didn't want to wait for the perfect moment. This is the perfect moment. Right now, in our house, with our girls upstairs, on the day we celebrated Maya turning 3. Lena's hands flew to her mouth, tears already streaming. Lena Harper, you walked into my life carrying more than a diaper bag. You carried grief and courage and this fierce, protective love for your daughter that made me fall for you immediately. You've taught me that family isn't about biology or perfection. It's about choice. It's about showing up every single day and choosing to love someone, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Evan, I'm not done. He smiled through his own tears. I choose you. Every day for the rest of my life, I choose you. I choose Maya. I choose the messy, complicated, beautiful family we're building together. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice when you took a chance on that blind date? Yes. The word came out as a sob. Yes. Absolutely yes. Evan slid the ring onto her finger, a simple band with a small diamond that caught the porch light. Then he stood and kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. A crash from inside made them break apart. They're kissing! Sophie's voice carried clearly through the window. Mama! Evan! Maya's shriek followed. Both girls tumbled out onto the porch in their pajamas, having clearly been spying the entire time. Are you getting married? Sophie demanded, like in the princess movies. We are, Evan confirmed, scooping her up. Does that mean Maya is really my sister now? Forever and ever. Forever and ever, Lena agreed, pulling Maya into her arms. Yes! Both girls screamed in unison, so loud the neighbors' lights turned on. They stood there on the porch, the four of them wrapped in a group hug, and Lena felt the final piece of her heart click into place. This was her family. Not the one she'd been born into or the one she'd lost, but the one she'd chosen and built from love and courage and impossible circumstances. The wedding was small, held in Carol's backyard on a sunny May morning. Just close friends and family, exactly what Lena and Evan wanted. Maya and Sophie were flower girls, wearing matching purple dresses that they'd insisted on picking out themselves. They took their job very seriously, scattering petals with intense concentration. Lena's parents were there, her mother crying throughout the entire ceremony. Sarah stood as maid of honor, beaming with pride. Carol sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes and looking utterly delighted. But the moment that broke Lena completely was during the vows. Evan had written his own, and when he spoke, his voice was steady and sure. Lena, 2 years ago, I didn't believe I could love again. I thought that part of my life was over, that I'd had my chance at happiness and lost it. Then you walked into that cafe with Maya on your hip, and everything changed. You showed me that the heart has infinite capacity for love, that choosing to love again doesn't diminish what came before. It honors it. He turned to Maya, who was standing with Sophie near the arbor. Maya, I promise to love you like you're my own, to show up for dance recitals and scrape knees and teenage heartbreaks, to honor your mama Emma's memory and make sure you always know how much she loved you, to be the dad you deserve. Maya, not quite understanding but sensing the importance, nodded solemnly. Then it was Lena's turn. She looked at Evan, at this man who'd seen all her broken pieces and loved her anyway. Evan, you stayed. That's the first thing I need to say. You stayed when you saw Maya, when I told you my truth, when I was too scared to let you in. You stayed and you kept staying, and you taught me that love doesn't run from complicated. It runs toward it. Her voice wavered. You've given me something I never thought I'd have again. A family. A home. A future that feels like possibility instead of just survival. You've loved my daughter like she's yours. You've been patient with my healing and gentle with my grief. You've shown me that it's okay to be happy again. She turned to Sophie. Sophie, thank you for sharing your dad with us. Thank you for being Maya's sister and my daughter. I promise to love you fiercely and show up for you always, to never try to replace your mama, but to give you all the love I have anyway. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden by the time they exchanged rings. When the officiant finally pronounced them married and Evan kissed her, their daughters cheered louder than anyone else. The reception was in the same backyard, tables set up under string lights and paper lanterns. There was dancing and laughter and toasts that made everyone cry and laugh in equal measure. Lena danced with her father, with Evan, with both girls at once. She talked with her mother about planning future visits, about being part of each other's lives again. As the sun set and the party continued around them, Evan pulled Lena away to a quiet corner of the garden. "Happy?" he asked. Deliriously, she kissed him softly. "Thank you for this. For all of it. Thank you for saying yes. To the date, to moving in, to forever." They watched their daughters chase fireflies across the lawn, heard their laughter mixing with the music and conversation. This was everything Lena had dreamed of during those dark early days with Maya, when she thought they'd always be alone. "Do you think Emma would be happy?" Lena asked quietly. "About all this?" "I think Emma would be thrilled. You gave her daughter a beautiful life, Lena, a family that loves her, a sister, stability, joy. You kept your promise to her." "I wish she could see it." "Maybe she can." Evan pulled her closer. "And even if she can't, we'll make sure Maya knows her story. That she was loved by two mothers, one who gave her life and one who gave her everything else." The girls ran up to them, breathless and glowing. "Mama, did you see? We caught 3 fireflies." Maya held up her cupped hands carefully. "Very impressive, baby. Can we keep them?" "How about we let them go and make a wish?" Lena suggested. "That's what my sister and I used to do when we were little." "What should we wish for?" Sophie asked. Lena looked at Evan, at their daughters, at the life they'd built together from grief and hope and impossible love. "Wish for whatever makes you happiest." The girls closed their eyes, whispered their secret wishes, then opened their hands. The fireflies rose into the darkening sky, little points of light floating upward. "I wished for ice cream," Maya announced immediately. "I wished for a puppy," Sophie added. Evan laughed. "Well, one of those wishes I can make come true right now. Who wants cake?" "Me!" both girls shrieked, racing back toward the party. Lena stayed where she was for a moment, watching the fireflies disappear into the twilight. She didn't make a wish. She didn't need to. Everything she'd ever wanted was right here, in this garden, in this moment, in this family she'd built from the ashes of loss. She felt Evan's hand slip into hers. "You coming, Mrs. Brooks?" Mrs. Brooks? Her new name? Her new life. She smiled. "Yeah, I'm coming." They walked back to the party together, and Lena looked back one last time at the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, she liked to imagine Emma watching. Emma, who'd given her the greatest gift, a daughter to love, a reason to keep going, a second chance at happiness. "Thank you," Lena thought, "for everything, for Maya, for showing me what love really means. I'll take care of her, I promise. We both will." The months that followed were full of the ordinary magic of daily life. School drop-offs and grocery shopping and family dinners. Sophie starting kindergarten with Maya cheering her on. Weekend trips to the coast where the girls collected shells and Evan taught them about tide pools. Quiet evenings after bedtime where Lena and Evan talked about everything and nothing. Lena's relationship with her parents continued to heal, slowly but steadily. They came for dinner once a month, brought thoughtful gifts for the girls, and told stories about Emma that made her feel present again. Her mother and Maya had developed a special bond over baking. Emma's secret grilled cheese ingredient had apparently been a little garlic powder, a secret her mother finally revealed. In August, on what would have been Emma's 30th birthday, Lena took Maya to the beach where she'd scattered some of Emma's ashes 2 years ago. Sophie and Evan came too, understanding that some moments needed to be shared. Mama Emma would be 30 today, Lena told Maya, who was now 3.5 and understood more than she used to. "She was my sister, and she loved you very, very much." "I wish I could meet her," Maya said, her small face serious. "Me too, baby. But she's always with us, in here." Lena pressed her hand over Maya's heart. "Every time you're brave or kind or silly, that's her. She gave me you, and that was the best gift anyone ever gave me." Maya thought about this, then picked up a shell. "Can we leave this here for her, so she knows we remembered?" "That's a beautiful idea." They placed the shell carefully on the sand, and Sophie added one of her own. "For Mama Emma," she said solemnly. "Thank you for Maya." Evan put his arm around Lena as they stood watching the waves. "You okay?" "Yeah." And she was. The grief was still there. It would always be there. But it didn't hurt the way it used to. It was softer now, woven into the fabric of her life rather than dominating it. "I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." That night, after the girls were asleep, Lena sat down at her computer and did something she'd been thinking about for months. She opened a document and started typing. "Dear Maya, this is the story of how you came into my life and how we became a family." She wrote for hours, pouring out everything: Emma's pregnancy, the joy and terror of those 9 months, the tragedy of losing her sister and gaining a daughter in the same day, the struggles of the first years, the move to Seattle, meeting Evan and Sophie. She wrote about choosing Maya every single day, about the fierce protective love that had grown from grief. When she finished, the sky was starting to lighten with dawn. She saved the document and labeled it, "For Maya, when you're ready." Someday, when Maya was old enough to understand, Lena would give her this story, would show her pictures of Emma, videos of her voice, journals filled with her thoughts, would make sure Maya knew that she was loved by 2 mothers who both chose her completely. But for now, there was breakfast to make, and children to wake up, and a life to live. Lena closed her laptop and headed to the kitchen, where Evan was already making coffee. "You were up late," he observed, handing her a cup. "Writing something for Maya, for the future." "Her story?" "Our story. All of it." Lena took a sip, savoring the perfect temperature. He always got it just right. "I want her to know the truth, the whole truth, when she's ready for it. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her, to have all of you." Lena set down her cup and wrapped her arms around him. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real, that I get to have this family, this love, this ordinary, beautiful life. Believe it." Evan kissed her forehead. "This is real. We're real. And we're not going anywhere." Footsteps thundered overhead. The girls were awake. "Daddy! Mama Lena! Can we have pancakes?" Evan grinned. "Duty calls." They made pancakes together, the 4 of them crowded in the kitchen. Maya insisted on mixing the batter, and Sophie was in charge of adding chocolate chips. There was flour everywhere, and laughter, and the kind of chaos that meant home. Looking around at her family, at Evan flipping pancakes, at Sophie and Maya giggling over a private joke, at the life they'd built in this house, Lena felt gratitude so overwhelming it brought tears to her eyes. She'd lost so much. Emma, her parents for a time, the future she'd imagined for herself. But from that loss had come this: a love deeper than she'd known possible. Daughters who filled her heart to bursting. A partner who saw every part of her and chose to stay. Life hadn't turned out the way she'd planned. It had turned out better. That evening, after dinner and baths and the elaborate bedtime routine that involved 3 stories and 2 songs and endless negotiations about 5 more minutes, Lena and Evan stood in the doorway of the girls' room. Maya and Sophie were finally asleep, tangled together in Sophie's bed, even though they each had their own. "They're beautiful," Evan whispered. "They really are." Lena leaned against him. "Do you ever wonder what our lives would be like if I hadn't brought Maya to that first date? If I'd gotten a babysitter like everyone expected?" "All the time. And then I think about how we almost missed this, how one different decision would have changed everything." He turned to look at her. "I'm so glad you were brave enough to bring her, to show me who you really were from the start. I'm glad you were brave enough to stay." They stood there a moment longer, watching their daughters sleep. Then they turned off the light and headed to their own room, hand in hand. Before bed, Lena opened the window to let in the cool night air. She could smell jasmine from the garden, could hear the distant sound of the city settling into sleep. Everything was quiet and peaceful and right. She thought about that terrified woman who'd walked into the Cornerstone Café 15 months ago, expecting nothing but the same old rejection. That woman who'd been so afraid of hoping, so convinced that her life would always be defined by loss. If she could go back and tell that woman anything, it would be this: hold on, be brave. The happiness you think you don't deserve is coming, It's going to show up in the form of a man with kind eyes and a daughter who needs a mother just as much as your daughter needs a father. It's going to heal wounds you thought were permanent. It's going to teach you that family is something you build, not something you're born into. It's going to save you. But Lena couldn't go back. She could only move forward, carrying the lessons of the past, but not living in them. She could only choose joy, choose love, choose this family every single day. And that's exactly what she planned to do. Evan was already in bed reading one of his endless teacher memoirs. He looked up when she climbed in beside him. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything. Nothing. How lucky we are." "We are lucky, but we also worked for this. You fought for this life, Lena. You earned it." She nestled into his side, her head on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Do you think we'll always be this happy?" "I think we'll have hard times. Arguments about whose turn it is to do dishes, stress about money or the girl's teenage years, days when everything feels impossible. But yes, I think we'll always have this. This foundation of love and trust and choosing each other that doesn't go away just because life gets hard. Promise?" "Promise." He set down his book and turned off the light, pulling her closer. "Sleep, love. Tomorrow's a new day." "What's tomorrow?" "Sunday, which means pancakes and playground and probably fighting about nap time." Lena smiled into the darkness. "Sounds perfect." "It is. This is perfect. You're perfect. I'm far from perfect. You're perfect for me, for us. That's all that matters." They drifted towards sleep, comfortable in the silence. Outside, the city hummed with life. Upstairs, their daughters dreamed child dreams of princesses and dinosaurs. The house settled around them, creaking softly, holding them safe. And Lena, surrounded by love she'd never expected to find, finally let herself believe in forever. Because this wasn't a fairy tale with an unrealistic ending. This was real life, messy and complicated and beautiful. This was choosing to love even when you're terrified. This was showing up for people who need you and letting yourself need them in return. This was building a family from grief and hope and the courage to take chances. This was everything. Emma, Lena thought one last time before sleep claimed her. I kept my promise. I gave her everything. I gave us both everything. I hope, wherever you are, you're proud. And somewhere, in the space between waking and dreaming, Lena could swear she felt a gentle presence, a whisper of approval. Emma's voice, faint but clear. I'm so proud of you, little sister. So proud. Now stop worrying about me and enjoy this beautiful life you've built. You deserve it. You both do. Then the feeling was gone, and there was only sleep and dreams and the promise of another perfect, ordinary day with the family she'd chosen and the family who'd chosen her back. The end, but also the beginning.